all companies, all businesses who have multi-location operations. And the purpose was to provide end-to-end solutions, technology solutions, which will impact quality of life. That was the purpose with which we live. Who asked this question? Thank you. Now, very interesting. I compared a conscious enterprise with a living human, but there are many human beings who are living but not conscious, right? Because they are not evolving. Similarly, there are many old Indian companies. Now it's your turn to answer, right? Give me names of old Indian companies which are almost forgotten. They are nowhere there, they are not competing even. But once upon a time they were leaders. Can you give me some names, please?
HMT.
Sorry?
HMT.
Absolutely, wow.
GKW.
Because it did not evolve. GKW, yes.
ITI.
Gaskin Williams, huh?
ITI.
ITI, here in Bangalore.
Mysore lamps.
Sorry?
Mysore lamps.
Mysore lamps. Mysore sandals, Mysore lamps, both. For that matter, yeah?
Mysore lamps is there. Mysore sandal is there. Lamps is there.
Lamps.
Yeah, but then if you notice, where are they in competition? That time it was top.
Bridge and roof.
Bridge and Roof. Where are you from? Who said Bridge and Roof? Bridge and Roof, Gestetner. There was one more company, Jessup.
Yes.
Yeah?
Jacob.
Ah.
Jacob.
GKW, somebody said GKW. No, what happened to these companies? Very simple. They were leaders, but they did not sense the change in the habitat and therefore did not change their habits and went extinct, just like the other animals which are vulnerable, endangered or nearly threatened for extinction. So please remember, it is not enough to be alive. It is also important to be learning to change the habits as the habitat changes. I talked about the being some time back. It's important for you to understand what is this stuff called being. Because we are talking of conscious enterprises being humanistic, we all carry a being in us, right? A very unique DNA, the essence of who we are, which makes us unique. So here the DNA is not a biological DNA, it's not a genetic DNA, it's a memetic DNA. Units of ideas are there in this DNA. The DNA is comprised of the purpose, the values, and some very, very innate potentials brought in by the early members and the founders of this enterprise. And I have done many such discoveries for many such enterprises who have aspired to be conscious. I don't know where they are on the conscious-unconscious spectrum. After having created this DNA, they go about, if you notice, they go about building such relationships with their stakeholders, which includes members, partners, investors, and customers. Because one of the essentials for evolution is interdependence and interrelationship. So if, let's say, any species is completely insulated from the rest of the world, do you think it is going to evolve? No. So that's one important thing about the being, that it consciously goes about enrolling and evolves with time, essentially relating and responding to interdependent entities in the ecosystem. Lives a tactile enterprise culture. What is a tactile enterprise culture? Very interesting.
Feeling. Touch.
Which you can touch and experience and feel. Many people talk about enterprise culture, but in case of a conscious enterprise, I don't know whether they are conscious or not. I have extensively worked with Tata Motors as my customers. I can still recall the kind of experience which is exclusively Tata Motor experience. I don't know ever you have walked into the corporate corridors of IBM or not. Exclusively IBM experience. Very tactile. So these people have some elements of a conscious being, these organizations. Very important for you to take note. of the obsessions that are there with a not conscious enterprise, somebody talked about governance. A conscious enterprise is not about governance. And maybe that's why you talked about governance. I'll share with you what is it all about. You will see complex hierarchical bureaucratic structures, right? Many of you, even PSUs today are revamping the structures, the organization structures today. Transactions, day in and day out. You know what is transactions, right? You give me this, I give you that. They depend a whole lot on competencies, but never bothered about how these competencies are being put into action. You have people with great experience, great qualifications, great education, sitting in the chair not acting. Knowledge retention and knowledge management system is a great fascination for them. But what are they doing with this? Is it going out? Is more knowledge coming in? Is there enrichment? Business strategies, they talk about, they go to Harvard, they go to Wharton, they go to where not, Kellogg's and all, try to import business strategies, try to do a quick fix, and it is inevitably a kind of a bad fix or a bad fit, and then it goes back to the shelf in terms of big number. Huge books of policies and procedures, right? As if everything is going to stay constant. In CMC, any manager with more than 5 or 6 years of experience didn't require a claim approval. At the end of every policy, there was this line written, or as per manager's discretion. And I'm talking of, I'm pretty old, by the way, late 80s, early 90s. Change management. So what they are going to do, force a change in the organization. It's an artificial change, engineered change. And becoming. Yeah? I want to become a BPO player. I want to become a digital enterprise. I want to become a social enterprise. I want to become an e-tailer. Yeah? Because that's what is in vogue. That's where the moolah is. That's where the investor is investing in. Very short-term, greed-led obsessions. Now comes, what are they omitting? Which is what the conscious enterprise are embracing. Guardianship.
No, I just have a doubt.
Yeah.
So don't you require these things? Even if you have a conscious company,
Yeah.
you require a certain amount of these things, right? Governance
Requirement, sir, is fine, but we are talking about obsession. I am so obsessed with it, I am so obsessed with governance that I have left value guardianship completely aside my agenda. So I am talking of obsession and omissions. Evolving forms. We have task forces, right, everywhere. So can the entire organization or most of the organization, except for where fiduciary discipline is required, be formed of task forces? I am making this challenging statement. Let's see. Instead of transactions, they value relationship more. Instead of competencies, consciousness is valued. And consciousness is knowing. Knowledge osmosis. You remember we talked about conscious enterprises always being in touch with the system. Knowledge osmosis is the way. More than business strategies, they are business instincts. You remember I showed you these 5 organizations which came out of the recession. How do you think they came out? They had the instinct by which they knew what the right way to go about. Besides policies and procedures, there is something called an organization dialogue, which is an informal dialogue that happens in cafeterias, in alleys, in town halls. And they are more powerful. Trust me, they are more powerful. Look at what is happening in your organizations. Isn't the informal dialogue more powerful than what is being sent through circulars? Instead of managing change, they adapt to change. They embrace change and adapt. And instead of being obsessed with becoming, they uphold their being, because that is what is making them unique. So I promised to show you 30 promising conscious enterprises which are called firms of endearment. This is for your treat. This is outside of India because Raj Sisodia, who has conducted the research, did it only in the US. I am inviting researchers from this group. If there are 3 to 4 researchers, I'll be happy to carry out this research in India. We have the internet, we don't need to go anywhere. And look at this, they are wonderful for investors, returning 1025% over the past 10 years, compared to only 122% for S&P 500. And 316% of the companies profile in the best-selling books of good to great. They're better than these companies, good to great. Some of you might have read this book. So friends, many of you might think that conscious enterprises are social enterprises, mushy doing social good, and kind of not for profit. Well, they are for profit, but they don't run for profit. They know profit is a means to make the purpose happen. So what makes meaning, makes money for them. This is what conscious leadership comes with. At the center is integrity. You will get to see the person everywhere the same, just the same as the person is. Comes with the value of compassion, commitment and contentment. I'll pause here for 2 minutes.
Can you do something about this noise?
Some ticky going on. Okay, very important. Some people wanted to know about conscious leadership. Very important thing about conscious leadership is the balance of compassion and contentment. And my friend, compassion and contentment cannot be learned. When you are conscious, it kind of surfaces. Now, two important things, please note down. This compassion is toward the other, and contentment is towards myself. I don't have a Merc to drive, I'm contented with it. My members don't have enough money to pay for their child education, is my compassion towards them. And it's like the wings of a bird. If they are not balanced, it will slow down. If I am too compassionate towards the others, I would be perhaps running an NGO. If I am too contented with myself without having compassion, where will I be? Himalayas, yeah. Right? So very important. And along with this comes this unique value of commitment. If I promise, come what may, I shall deliver. Whatever I promise. So before I promise, I make sure that I can deliver. That's why they are very balanced in terms of their sales and business commitments also. So I talked about Dr. Gupta, some of the insight that I got from Dr. Gupta. He had a fierce focus on quality of life of the country, but when it came to us, as in the members, he made sure that all of us are at our level best. And his way was slightly high-handed. He was very firm. Every one of us was scared of him. He was also very loving towards the partners, at the same time very demanding. Not because he wanted to demand, he was demanding so that their benchmarks go up. The reason was very simple. There was only one driver, and that was the purpose that he was committed to, the purpose of the organization. And it was, be then, and even till date, perhaps the most respected system integrator till TCS took over, CMC. It is still, by the way, the brand is still intact. Very important. How do you become a conscious leader? I'm sure you would like to know. Well, it is believed in our Shastras that when a child is born, every child is born a Shudra. Do you know that? Do you know that? every child is born a Shudra. And through his vritti alone, he moves from being a Shudra to finally being a Brahmin. The caste system is not by jati, it is by vritti. Please understand. Upanishads say that very clearly. Similarly, when we are born in our professional lives, we are born as executives. We are born as executives, and after some time, either within that organization or outside, we take P&L responsibility, right? And we become entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs. And from there, after let's say, 15 years to 20 years, wherever, we become an expert in an area and we are respected as an expert. We are seen as SMEs, subject matter experts. But then what? Unfortunately, because these are all traditional organizations, they have not created a space for enablers. Let's understand who these enablers are. In your growth from being an executive to an entrepreneur to an expert to an enabler, you resolve certain needs. As an executive, what is your core need? If you had this, you could have given it. Be conscious next time. Thank you. Hello? Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So the core need of an executive is relevance. He will go and accomplish the targets because he wants to feel relevant. If he cannot, he feels that he's not relevant for the system, right? So executive is driven by the need for relevance, as the entrepreneur is exists because of the need for richness. Not personal richness alone, but richness of the enterprise. Whereas an expert, driven by the need for respect. And that's why I said, I'm not an expert. I don't want respect from you guys. But an enabler is driven by the need for religion. Religion is not religion. Religion is a way of life, which is called Tao, which is called Dhamma by the Buddhists. He is driven by the way of life, by the laws of existence, which has got nothing to do with the rituals or the name of organized religion. No, it is not that religion. Now, all of us know about the three gunas. Very important, just pay a little attention over here. What are the three gunas? Rajas, right? Now, these four, I would say, stages of development are predominantly governed by certain gunas. Like the executive is predominantly driven by the guna of service. Tamas is what? Tamas is also service. Tamas is not necessarily negative. And behind that there is a sattva. Okay? Comes the entrepreneur because he needs to be aggressive, so there is rajas at the front. But there is tamas also because he needs to provide service. There's a balance. Okay? The expert comes with a lot of sattva. But at the back there is rajas because he wants to be popular, he wants to be respected. But he will speak what he believes is the truth. But only in case of an enabler, it is sattva and sattva. So it's a tall order to be a conscious leader, to become sattva, and when I say it is truly sattva, it's not just being a vegetarian. The contentment that I talked about is sattva, the compassion that I talked about is sattva. So you got this right? If you want to become a conscious leader, this is your path, and once you are like the sun. You don't get into any transaction, you're right there at the center of the wheel of time and space, and your presence is so radiative
that presence itself makes an organization grow and makes things happen. It sustains life. I have seen such leaders. Another name, Dr. Rohinton Naga, the chairman, managing director, founder of Thermax. That's the second company I worked with. Those days, the topmost exporter from India and believed in indigenous products. Today we are talking about, energy management, energy conservation. I'm talking of early 90s. He had already done process heat discovery, heat recovery, and water treatment. They were three key divisions, and they still are. Dr. Gupta has spoken about, and there are many more. There are many more who may not be from the business world, to whatever extent he did, but he did bring in a lot of consciousness in the people of India, Mahatma Gandhi for that matter. Or an awakening of sorts for Indians abroad, Swami Vivekananda, right? So this country has no dearth of conscious leaders. They have different types of enterprises that they have led. You can do your own research. Once again, if I have 3 or 4 volunteer researchers with me, we can do 10 top conscious leaders of this country. Because tendency is to go to the West and look for things, not look for what this 5,000-year-old ancient heritage is already holding in its bosom. So I am almost through. I will skip some of these slides, having talked about conscious leadership, style for conscious culture. Conscious culture, I suppose all of you know, when you look at a business as a social institution, there is a way of doing things, right? Like we come from Karnataka, we go to Tamil Nadu, we go to Andhra Pradesh. Each state has its culture. Each country has its culture. This country is an amazing country which has multiple cultures. So how does it happen? One is, the essence of a conscious culture is in the practice of bhakti, jnana and karma. And the line between these two is nothing but learning. You practice what you know, and you know from what you practice. That is learning. And after some time, when you have done enough of it, it leads to utmost dedication. And by the way, a conscious leader has 2 very essential qualities. He is 100% dedicated to the cause of the organization. Number 2, he considers himself to be an instrument of the law. Not the law of the land, but the law of existence. So for the cellular consciousness, conscious culture is about cellular consciousness. Can we have the mic on? Yeah. It is important that every individual follows this path, ultimately leading to self-knowledge. My 30 years of journeying, and I don't know how many more years I'll journey with several organizations, has brought me to this conclusion. Why am I working? What am I seeking? What is the answer I'm looking for? At the end of the day, I think if there's anything that I'm looking for is to understand, who am I? Can anybody say who you are? Who you truly are? That's our ultimate quest. And belonging to a conscious culture is the only way by which people can engage as members in this primordial or most fundamental quest. How do conscious culture get created? This is an example. I thought there was one other. Don't you think consciousness should commence at the highest level, that is, where rules? Consciousness knows no levels. It's a flat, mushy. Premkumar, where are you? Yeah. There are no levels in consciousness. I'm talking of cellular consciousness. One small vein in the leg doesn't work, I can have a heart attack. Whereas the heart, brain, liver, they're supposed to be leaders. So that is one. Where rules are framed, and should there not be sovereign effort to support those at grassroots levels who are struggling with their conscious dream into reality? Now, very interesting question. In a conscious enterprise, rules are co-created, whatever rules. And they are co-created out of experience of a representative group. I have facilitated many such co-creations. And some of the rules are here. Okay, let me take you to the next slide. My small organization called iProdigy. We have norms. These are the rules that we created. Do you think I created as a founder? Here is another member. There are so many, there are 25 of them got together. I had no say. Only agree, not agree. If I was not agree, they will make me agree. They cannot leave me aside. That's the beauty of it. Because they are all in synchronicity, right? The cellular consciousness is interconnected. I can't be divorced. And nobody can come and condescend that, okay, I will give you this. However, I as a conscious leader will enable that to happen. If I have employees who are down below poverty level, I'll make sure that they are paid higher than my vice president. And companies are doing this. It's no joke. Some of the names that we took over there, I'll share the slide, go and research. Whole Foods, paying it's a food company, it's a packaged food company. Enormous amount of money to people who are packaging the foods. Now these are all co-created decisions, so that nobody comes with the condescension and patronage. There is no king, there is no Raja and Praja over here. I am the Raja, I am also the Praja. So have I answered your question? So these are certain norms that we created and we still live by, and these norms came from where? They came from a set of values. These are not our values, another organization. So how is the culture created? We co-discover a set of values, and from those values we break it down into certain standard behaviors facing the partner, the stakeholder, facing the member, and facing the enterprise, and ensure that there are value ambassadors. I'm beginning to talk with a US company based out of India, again founded by a very, very value-oriented person called G.A. Menon out of Trivandrum. Trust me, they have value ambassadors within the organization. 14,000 is their strength, but they make sure every person in the organization knows what the values are and what are the norms they must practice to make sure that the values prevail. A quick question to all of you before I close. Are you aware of the values that your organization practices? Not written on the wall of the conference room. That's different. That's marketing. Are you aware of the purpose because of which your organization exists? Please go and find out if you are not. And ask them, to what extent are you practicing this? Ask yourself, to what extent are you practicing this? A very small beginning to being an enabler to conscious enterprise. You can make it happen, trust me. Because of the fact that there is no hierarchy, there is no Raja, there is no Praja. You are also the Raja, right? So with that, I think I will close. My conversation, Seth Godin was my inspiration when I started iProdigy way back in early 2000. So conscious enterprise is not new. He talked about evolving enterprises. Look at what he talked about. So as a tribute, as a mark of honor and respect for the guy who has brought me over here, and we have exchanged mails, I thought I'd put his quotes up here. If you have a passion and purpose to build a living, evolving, conscious enterprise, you have a partner to accompany you in your mission, reach me at Indroneil.com. Otherwise also you can reach me. Questions? I think we have just 5-10 minutes, and then we have another session to go. Any questions that are not here? Thank you so much for the 2 questions, by the way. Shoot! No Raja, no